You're listening to Faith, Stewardship, and Insurance, Protecting Texas Churches. The show that gives pastors and church leaders the clarity they need to protect their people, property, and ministry.
Welcome back to Faith Stewardship and Insurance, Protecting Texas Churches. I'm your host, Ron Wadley with Insurance for Texans. We help church leaders protect their people and property with wisdom and clarity. In today's episode, we are looking at something that few church leaders understand, and that is coinsurance. Steve felt that pressure in a very real way. When his church in San Antonio received its renewal notice, the numbers didn't just climb, they jumped. The budget was already tight. Giving hadn't increased, and yet the cost to keep what he thought was adequate coverage suddenly felt out of reach. Steve wasn't trying to be careless. He wasn't looking to gamble with the church's future. He was simply trying to make the math work without cutting church activities or switching to an actual cash value policy that would leave them exposed later. That's when the conversation turned to something he had never heard of before. Coinsurance. It's one of those insurance terms that is important to understand before a loss. Coinsurance is built into most commercial property policies, including church policies in Texas. It requires the church to insure its building to a certain percentage of its full replacement value. That percentage is usually 80 or 90%. If the church doesn't meet that threshold, the insurance company doesn't just reduce the limit. They reduce the claim payment itself. That surprised Steve. He assumed that if the church had a loss, insurance would pay up to the limit they chose. What he didn't realize is that underinsuring the building, even intentionally to save premium, can trigger a penalty that shifts part of every claim back onto the church. Upon this realization, Steve gave us a call at Insurance for Texans. So we walked through it together. If a church building should be insured for $1 million and the policy requires 80% insurance to value, the minimum coverage needs to be $800,000. If the church only carries $600,000 worth of property coverage to save money, the insurance company considers the church a partner in the loss. That means when damage happens, the payout is reduced proportionally, and then the deductible still applies on top of that. For Steve, the realization landed hard. He wasn't just risking a lower maximum payout, he was risking every claim being shorted, right when the church would be most vulnerable. A hailstorm, a fire, or a major water loss could create a financial gap that the budget simply couldn't absorb. That's why coinsurance matters so much right now. Construction costs keep rising. Replacement values shift faster than most churches review their policies. And in a market where leaders are forced to make difficult decisions, reducing limits without understanding coinsurance can create far more risk than it saves in monthly premium. This isn't about buying the biggest policy possible. It's about ensuring to the right value so the policy works the way church leaders expect it to work when they need it most. Steve said something during that conversation that stuck with me. He said, "I thought I was saving money. I didn't realize I was signing the church up to help pay for the next disaster." That's an honest mistake, and it's happening all over Texas. This is where working with an experienced church insurance specialist makes all the difference. Coinsurance isn't something you fix after a loss. It's something you plan for ahead of time by understanding how limits, replacement cost, inflation, and deductibles all work together. At Insurance for Texans, this is exactly why we designed our True Texas Church Insurance program. We slow the conversation down, we explain the trade-offs, and we help church leaders choose coverage levels that protect the ministry instead of quietly undermining it. If your church has lowered limits to manage premiums or is thinking about it, you need to understand how coinsurance could affect you before the next storm hits. Reach out to the church insurance agents at Insurance for Texans by going to our website at insurancefortexans.com. And if you want a broader framework for navigating these kinds of decisions with confidence, I encourage you to get a copy of our book, The Promise of Certainty, at thepromiseofcertainty.com. I'm Ron Wadley, and this has been Faith Stewardship and Insurance, protecting Texas churches. Until next time, steward wisely and ask good questions of your church insurance agent.
Thanks for listening to Faith, Stewardship, and Insurance. Until next time, remember, insurance isn't just about policies. It's about safeguarding the mission God has called you to lead.